Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for this opportunity to provide this testimony in support of the Indian Boarding School Bill. My name is Matthew Bonnet. I am of the Shoshone Lakota people who now call the Rosebud Sioux Reservation home. I am the son of Matthew Bonnet and Julian Swally, the grandson of Joseph Bonnet and Jenny Yellowhair, and the great-grandson of Folding Throat and Purdy Bird. I am 76 years old. The topic I'm speaking about today, the boarding schools, and my experience with them, is a difficult topic to talk about. It is hard to speak about it without making myself feel bad by bringing up these memories. But I agreed to speak only because my sisters gave me permission to speak. I am one of 10 siblings, and we all attended the same boarding school. My mother and my father also attended the boarding schools. I was only 6 years old when I was taken to the St. Francis boarding school in South Dakota in 1952. I attended this boarding school 24/7 for 10 months out of the year for 8 years total. The majority of my childhood, I had left St. Francis boarding school in the 8th or after the 8th grade in 1960. My boarding school experience is very painful and traumatic. I remember when I first got to school, the priest took us to his big room, which had 6 or 8 bathtubs in it. The priest took all us little guys and put us in one tub, and he scrubbed us hard with a big brush. The brush made our skins and our backsides all raw, and we had to have our hair cut. The school then put all the little guys in the same dormitory. We were together the 1st through 4th grades. At night time, you could hear all the children crying, lonely for their families. I remember seeing my sisters. During the day, during my stay at the school, corporal punishment was common. The priest would often get impatient and discipline us by hitting us with a leather strap or a willow stick. There was also punishment to what we called the Jesus rope, which was a rope with several strands coming off of it. We would hit with this and the razor straps, and one priest sometimes used a cattle prod on us. Another way the priest disciplined us was to lock us out of the school during the cold winter. When this would happen, the little guys would be shivering and crying. Some of us older boys would take our coats off and cover them. One time, a priest threw my older brother Joe Bonnet down a flight of stairs, and he broke his arm. I think the priest was also abusing him in other ways. The priest also punished us by isolating us and limiting our access to food. One time I got in trouble, and my punishment was for 10 days I was separated from other kids and given only bread and water to eat. I don't even remember what I did to deserve this type of punishment. Each June, every parent would come and pick us up to go home for the summer. My parents were Lakota speakers at home. Because we were at school, we were not allowed to speak and learned to speak English and Latin. Sometimes they taught us Spanish as well. It was difficult to speak with my parents in my Lakota language. That got away from us, the Lakota language, but we are still trying hard to catch up with that ever since. Once I got out of boarding school, I went to the high school at the Pine Ridge Community High School in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. I was always very, very proud of our service people, our Lakota people who served in the military and others. One day I was talking to some fellow high school students and told them about my dad's service in the Army and how he got captured by the Japanese. And I said that he was captured and tortured by the Japanese, and each day they cut off a toe until all his toes were gone. One guy, who was my cousin, said to me, "Your dad was never in the Army." Of course, I said, calling my dad a liar, and we got in a fight. When I went home, my dad told me that when he was in the first or second grade in the school, he ran away, and because of that, he froze his toes off. And when he died, it's because his toes gangrene set in. All those kids that attended boys' school, we never speak about our experience in the school. Our family has never spoken to each other about it, and our parents have never told us about it. I guess we just didn't want to hurt each other. And I'm hoping that by doing this discussion, that many would recognize that what happened to them those many years later. These boys' schools have caused a long-term trauma for our kids. Many try to cope with this trauma through alcohol, and some people who later became abusers of themselves, their families, and their communities. Regarding my healing, I credit my dad for being there for me and helping me. Because of him, I turned out the way I did. When I was in the boys' school, my dad taught me a song that gave me spiritual strength to hang on every day. The song has a very simple translation. The song simply says, "Friend, the dawn has arrived, I live again." Every day I would sing this song to myself before I went out to play. The boys' schools were sanctioned by the United States government. And the government gave the churches more land so that they can Christianize and modernize us and to civilize us.
Mr.
But the church treated us wrong. And I thank you for letting me testify today.
Thank you, Mr. Bonnet, for that moving testimony and sharing with us the songs that have helped you in your process. The chair will now recognize Dr. Ramona Klein, who is also a boarding school survivor and a citizen of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians. Dr. Klein for 5 minutes.